not on the plane. Anyways, welcome back, everybody. Welcome to our podcast that we still haven't named yet. I am Scott. I am the prettiest brother.
I'm Tanner. I'm here. I don't know what I
I'm
am.
over here, brother.
Yes, that's me.
And I'm Jared. Yeah.
You guys are so
That's
bad.
what I
I'm the
said.
third brother.
All right. Well, today we want to talk about Halo because, boy howdy, do the Cleveland boys love Halo,
Yep.
especially our younger brother.
I mean, that's mostly our fault.
We don't live there, and he's obsessed. Anyways, we're not gonna get into that right now. But so we wanted to talk about just Halo, and we're gonna try to keep this shorter to like 40 minutes ish. We wanted to talk first of all just about like why we like Halo, and just like what it means to us, how much. Yeah, I don't even know how else to put it. We're just gonna get into that. Then we're also gonna want to talk about in the second half of this why we're a little worried about Halo Infinite. Maybe not like freaking out, but we're a little worried.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some worries.
And I think
Concerns, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the happy stuff first.
Okay.
Let's start with the beginnings of Halo for us.
Oh.
First time I ever played Halo, I was 13 years old, and it was at a church activity on Halloween, and it was super fun. Played multiplayer with a bunch of other dudes, and it was just an absolute blast, and I was like, ooh, we need this. Then, I remember this. I don't know if you guys even remember this.
I know exactly what you're going to talk
What
about.
happened was our dad's boss he had been working for got an Xbox 360 because it had just came out, and he gave our dad his old original Xbox, and he gave him like Halo 1 and Halo 2, and like Knights of the Old Republic was the other one,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It came with the console,
That's a
so-
great game
That's a
too.
baller
We'll have to
game.
talk about Star Wars
That's
sometime.
good.
But anyways, Halo, and I don't know how long our dad had this thing,
Probably a couple
but
He
at
hid it.
some point, yeah, he kept it hidden from us. That's a key point here. And so
And
we
just to point out, we had a PlayStation 2, so like we were already playing video games at that point, and he was hiding the Xbox from us.
he was hiding the greatest discovery of all time.
Really.
So I don't remember, I was like, our mom sent me to her room to look for something. And this was when Seth was like a baby still, and they had like that playpen, like those baby playpen things in their
Yeah.
room for him to sleep in at night when they pulled him from his room. And I went in there to look for something, and I looked under that thing, and I saw this bag or whatever. I was like, what is this? Is this what I'm looking for? And I pulled it out, and I was like, there's an Xbox here, and there's Halo, and there's Halo 2. And I was like, what? And I did not immediately tell you guys. For once in my life, I was smart. And asked mom about it, and she explained it to me. She's like, don't tell your brothers. I'm like, okay. And I remember Tanner's part of the story now at this point. We were sick one day
Oh, yeah. Sure.
home from school, and I was like, I don't remember what mom was doing, but she was gone like all day, right?
The entire day.
And
She was typically gone when we were younger
and-
most of the day, doing like grocery
yeah,
shopping,
she
right?
did all kinds of stuff, but there was
Yeah,
something
it-
she was doing. She was gone for more than like an hour to go grocery shopping. It was a decent chunk of time.
Yeah, it was like the entire morning.
And we used to, Jared mentioned we had the PlayStation 2, like, anytime our parents weren't home, we had limited screen time, okay? Anytime our parents weren't home, we were busting out that PlayStation 2 and we were playing it. And we just played games, like, as much as we could on the DL. And I remember being like, Tanner, we're not playing PlayStation 2 today.
This is a confessional, by the way. Yeah. Sorry, Mom. But yeah, so like he busts out the Xbox. I was like, holy crap, where did Dad get this? And he was like, yeah. He explained the whole situation to me, and so we started playing Halo. And at this point, it's worth noting, like our dad had the first Halo novel that was written, that was released with the game.
I bought that.
You
with
did.
the Borders gift card.
What?
Rest in peace,
Yeah,
Borders.
no, I remember that. Yeah.
Dude, yeah.
You got it for gift card for like your birthday or something.
I got it from
yeah?
school for something.
Yeah.
Anyways, this is
Rip
not
Borders. Well, but the point is, yeah, like at this point, we all were really invested in Halo because we'd read the book and we were like, oh, this book is straight fire. I want to play the game that it's based off of, obviously, because that's going to be better. That's where I was, anyways. So when we started playing it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. And yeah, I mean, it was everything that I'd ever dreamed it would be.
Yeah.
And more.
And then I didn't find it till later. At some point, I found the Xbox, and I forget who I went to about it. Like, what the heck? There's an Xbox, but I specifically remember my mom being like, Yeah, and at least Scott came to me to ask me about it.
That's right.
Something.
Yeah.
I think I came to you, and she overheard, and then she was
I
like,
think you
"What the
just
heck,
walked
Jared?"
downstairs and asked the room in general.
And she was like, "At least Scott came to me quietly about it." And I was like, I was like, what was I? I was like, what, 9 years old at the time? Just kind of like,
Yeah.
oh, like, oops.
The smartest thing I did as a 13-year-old was that.
Yeah.
And
Anyway.
at that point, I remember that day, like, Dad got home from work, and I remember Mom obviously pulled him aside to be like, all of them know now.
They know.
And then I remember him pulling out
But
and being
he
like, "This
didn't
is for
let us
me."
play it,
Yes,
though.
he was like, "This is for
And
me.
then
You
we
guys
would
don't get to play."
we would go to the Schlenz's house and we would play at the Schlenz's house. And we'd play
Yup.
Halo 2 custom games with just 4 of us. Oh, we'd play it till
Yup.
the butt crack of dawn.
That's where my game
But then-
came from. Was that?
This is the real. So yeah, the beginning of this
I don't
game
know where
was
you're going with
the,
this.
be- the
I
beginning
gotta
of
be
this.
real.
The beginning of this story is basically just us playing Halo every chance we could get, even though we weren't supposed to, because it was rated M, right? Which
Yeah.
I know, hindsight, it's like the least rated M game of all time. But yeah, so then it was Thanksgiving
Yep.
when the Becks were over,
Mhm.
and he brought his projector, and Dad hooked the Xbox up to the projector, and we all played Halo. We did multiplayer together on the wall.
Yeah.
of
And a
this
little bit leading up
house.
to that, they were playing at his house when we'd do family events, and we would sneak into like where they had set it up to play together
and just watch
them play campaign.
from the
Yes.
stairs.
Like I think my first time watching Halo being played, because I hadn't really got to dabble in it much, was they were playing the library in Halo 1, and that was like the first time I saw them playing campaign together and them freaking out over the flood, and I was like, this is dope.
That actually reminds me, like, I definitely remember asking Mom about it. Once I was like, they were playing Halo. Does Dad have an Xbox? And she was like, oh no, Brother Beck. It was Brother Beck's. I was like, oh.
Mother taught us not to
okay.
lie.
Yeah.
We love you, Mom.
Yeah, I love you, Mom. She's not listening to this.
She's probably not.
No, for sure not.
I mean, Seth might make her listen to it. But anyways. So yeah, the beginning of Halo for us. And then like our friend down the street got a Xbox 360 and we played Halo 3 all the time there. And like that summer it was kind of like, okay, we could play Halo. And that summer after that Thanksgiving was when Seth stepped on the PlayStation 2
And broke it.
and broke the disc reader.
No, he sat on it.
No,
He
did
stood
he
on
s-
it first and then sat on it.
Oh,
He
I don't
stepped
remember.
up onto
All
it
I
like it was the
remember is
stairs
I was
and
playing
sat
Jack
on it.
2 and then it just broke and that was
Yeah.
it. So an entire summer and like that Christmas then we got a 360. But I remember that entire summer basically all we did was play Halo and Halo 2.
No,
we
absolutely
did
right.
dabble in Knights of the Old Republic, but Halo 2 was it. And it's just kind of been a mainstay for us ever since.
Yeah. Like I'll get on and Scott and I will play together, and some of the time we don't really know what to play, and he's like, well, I'm just gonna jump on like Fiesta mode on Halo multiplayer, and we'll just play that for a couple hours and either have a really crappy time because we're out of practice, or we have just a fantastic time because Halo multiplayer is just awesome.
It is great.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what I'm going to put you guys on the spot with this question. I'm going to go first because I thought about it already.
Okay.
What is your favorite thing about Halo?
Okay.
So think about that. For me, I think my favorite thing about Halo and the thing that makes it stand out the most is just and we're talking Halo 1, 2, and 3 here. Less so in the new 343 games, but the
We'll talk
Bungie
about the
games,
new
there
ones
was a
later.
sense of mystery, right? Like I remember firing up the the Combat Evolved menu, one of the best like main menus of all time. You just fire it up, you see that ring floating in space, and you hear that music that we so joyously opened with, and it just stays, right? Like there's this I don't know how Bungie pulled it off. It's something in that art design and it just like it's so like feels so high tech and yet so ancient and unknown at the same time, and it just astounds me. And that on top of the gameplay and everything else wonderful about Halo, that's my like favorite part about it, and what hooked me the most was just that mystery.
I think my favorite part of Halo, just as a series, and are we talking about the series as a whole or just the first game?
Whatever you want.
Okay, my favorite part about Halo is just the amount of fun that you can have killing your friends in it. Like, which sounds really horrific, the FBI probably put me on a watch list or something now, but Like just walking.
They're not listening.
Yeah,
to
no, they're not
this.
listening to me. Just like walking around through the campaigns with friends or with you guys, and just smacking each other.
Somebody's sniping you.
Yes, that. Thank you for taking my
Sorry,
punchline.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, just like smacking each other in the back and like having mini duels and like throwing grenades at each other and whatnot. And like that was, I think, my favorite part of Halo was getting good enough at the game that we could do that in the middle of a firefight. Just be like there's 2 hunters and a bunch of elites and whatnot around you, and then you're just stick your friend and then steal their sniper rifle and then start using it because they're not doing good at it, and you want the sniper rifle. Yeah,
you want to one-shot the hunter.
You want all the glory.
Yeah, it was great. I love that.
Yeah, no, that's a great part. I think, like, obviously when I was really young when we started first playing it, so obviously the thing that was most intriguing to me was, like, I was learning how to play a shooter for the first time. Like, every other game we had played beforehand was, like, a third-person platformer, puzzle solver.
Hey, don't
Ratchet
forget
and Clank.
James Bond Nightfire.
Yeah, Ratchet and Clank. Yeah, all those kind of games where they're third person, and some of them had shooting and stuff. But this was the first time, like, I was in the cockpit of the character, you know. And something that I think Bungie does so beautifully with, what do you say? You know what I mean. I'm behind the wheel of the character and immersed.
Sure.
You know, that's what I'm saying. And something that Bungie does beautifully with Halo, and something that we can talk about later, even with later games, is the fact that Master Chief didn't like talk like ever. He was a very mysterious character that you played as. And for me, as I was like learning to play the game and all that kind of stuff, playing multiplayer with friends, what really stuck out to me with Halo was how you felt like the Chief. That was probably one of the most important things to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you felt like, you know, the demon, the Spartan. Like, you are Master Chief that the Covenant fears and humanity also kind of fears because of how freaking scary you can be, you know? So that, for me, that was a really good time to, like, jump into a character and actually feel like I'm a part of the game and be immersed by, like, the story and stuff. So that's for me.
Yeah, that's fair. I recently watched a devs reacting to a speed run of the first Halo game, which was bonkers, by the way. Well, that's like a whole other topic.
Speedrunning's a topic.
Yeah, speedrunning's awesome, but they were talking about how they purposefully, you know, in the series didn't give him a name until the last scene, so that you feel like, you know, they're referring to the Chief, and you're like, oh, I'm the Master Chief.
Yeah, I'm the Chief.
Even though the book tells you his name right off.
Yeah,
the
the
bat.
book
That
tells
came
you the
out
name
after
right off the
Halo
bat.
2, but whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, no, the book was released concurrently with the game.
Halo Reach?
Yeah.
With CE?
Fall of Reach.
Fall of Reach came out after the game.
Alright, I'm fact checking. We don't need to argue. No. Keep talking. I'll look it up. Scott's looking it up anyways.
Yeah, clearly.
I'll let him do it.
I'm pretty sure it was released with the game.
So anyways,
Originally published October 30th, 2001. Says it right there on the side.
oh,
So is that when Halo?
yeah, that's when the Xbox launched.
Oh, okay.
Boom!
Really close. I didn't know that.
The more you know.
The more you know.
The more you know.
Anyways, so that's like why we like our favorite parts about it. But like, let's just talk about the nitty gritty. Like, what like objectively makes Halo great, as objective as we can be. Obviously, anyone can argue with anything. I'm gonna go ahead and say the sandbox, and the weapons, and the way everything is balanced out, and just the mayhem, and yeah, everything about that sandbox. Like, granted, Halo has fantastic maps, especially the first 3 have some amazing maps, which helps a lot. But without like those tools that create that sandbox, like, it wouldn't be half as fun as it would.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I think Forge plays into that a lot, like giving us the ability to like play with that sandbox even, which wasn't touched on a whole ton with like until later games. And even then it was definitely not a focus of the Halo games, really. But being able to build your own maps and do your own things.
Do
with
you not remember
multiplayer,
playing
like,
Halo 3 custom games
No,
for just
that's what I'm
days?
saying. Like Halo 1 and 2 didn't have that. That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
But
okay.
Halo 3, when they introduced Forge mode, and all of a sudden it's like now we can mess with things and we can play around with what we've been given. And there's some multiplayer maps like in Halo that are in like Halo 5 multiplayer now that were originally custom game designs, weren't there? Like somebody else made that.
Well,
map.
okay, the entire Griff Ball playlist
Gripball's a whole thing. Too,
literally
but-
wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Forge, because it was made by some dudes playing Forge. They're like, hey, wouldn't this be fun? So
Yeah. No, you're right.
it was Rooster Teeth, wasn't it?
It was Rooster Teeth.
It was Rooster Teeth
Yeah.
Okay.
because they named it after Griff from Red vs. Blue.
Versus
Right.
Blue. Yeah.
No, there's not maps in Halo 5 that were originally Forge maps.
Are you sure?
I am positive.
there's that
There
one
are maps in
SWAT
Halo
map.
5 that are Forge maps that used to be actual levels that they remade in Forge.
Because I thought there was that one map you played on SWAT typically, where you're like up on the cliff. It's like it was from Halo Reach Forge, if I'm remembering correctly, where you're up on the like that cliff and there's like the two bases and there's that middle circle ring area. Usually played as a SWAT map. I thought that was a custom map, but I don't know what it's called.
I don't even know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
I have no
I'll
clue what
show
you're
it to
talking
you
about.
later, but yeah, that's something with the sandbox.
I think the campaign design is really good. The AIs are pretty stupid for the allies, but the enemies are hilarious, and I think there's a lot of good design for that.
Can we just talk about how Halo Combat Evolved has better enemy AI in it than like 90% of the games that come out today?
Yep, 100% agree.
Maybe, I don't know.
It's good.
It's especially noticeable if you play like Halo 5 versus going back and playing Halo Combat Evolved. The AI in Combat Evolved is smarter,
They're quicker.
they're faster, they're less forgiving.
Hmm.
And I feel like they've gone the route. I promise this is not a crap on 343 podcast yet, but in Halo 5 is difficult because they dropped your health so low and they tanked up the enemies. If you actually watch the way that the AI behave, they're super dumb.
Well,
Yeah, they're
I
like
mean,
bullet sponges.
I played Halo 5 once, and anyways,
You
we'll
don't
get
need
to
to
that
play it
later.
Play it again.
Yeah.
You learned everything, got everything out of it you needed to. So.
Yeah, which was I didn't need anything out of it. But anyways, that's a whole other topic. Yeah, I think the thing that jumps to my mind right off the bat about what makes Halo like objectively good is, well, I guess we just talked about it, as the AI. So I just think it's fun, and the enemy variety is really good. They know when to throw you into good situations, when to throw you into a good sniper mission, when to throw hunters at you, and when to throw a whole room full of elites with needlers at you versus just with plasma rifles. You know, it just, there's a lot of variety in the weapons with the AIs too that makes it different.
When to give you a tank.
Yeah, when to give you a
Yeah,
tank. That's true.
Tank
That
levels,
first tank
baby.
they give you in Halo 1 is like perfectly placed.
It's a
You know,
game
you get this
changer.
Big old map and they're like, oh, I got a tank now. Cool. Okay, so probably the thing that I would say makes Halo objectively good is it's kind of touching on what Tanner was just saying. There's like variability. Like you have a lot of different enemies, you have a ton of different weapons. They keep expanding that as the series progresses. But one thing that stayed the same, and basically until 343, was the simplicity of it. Like you pick up a gun, you have a cursor, you point it, you shoot it. Like there wasn't obviously like aim down sights is a thing on a lot of weapons, and like that's something that you can incorporate, and grenades are a thing. But mostly, I think it's great that you can just pick up a gun off of an enemy and just blast somebody with it. Like it's just simple. You pick something. I like gun. It shoots shiny. It shoot them dead. Awesome. You know, like
Well,
you can't complain with that. It's just fun. It's fun to just kill stuff.
yeah, I think the
FBI watch this.
weapon, yeah, the weapon design is intuitive enough that you pick up every gun and you know exactly what it is. And part of that's just limitations of the system, but also just the name of it. This is the assault rifle. Oh, okay, it's a machine gun. This is a rocket launcher. I wonder what that does. You know, you're not ever picking up the sniper rifle and being like, geez, I wonder if I shoot this guy in the head if it'll kill him or not.
You're like, it's gonna blow.
You're like,
their
yeah,
fucking
that'll
head
work.
off. Yeah, of course.
That's the point of a sniper rifle. So
And then
there you
it'll
go.
Beat their body incessantly till it bleeds blue all over the place.
Okay, well, here comes the FBI.
There's the FBI.
I stop saying FBI. They're gonna flag our video.
Hey, that's one extra view, right?
That's not one that we want. I have to say, going along with that simplicity thing, like just across the board, like picking up a gun, it's pretty easy to know, but the Halo games are simple, right? Like the original trilogy especially, everything has a role that it plays, and it's very easily identifiable within a very small amount of time of finding out what it is, right? Like grunts, they're shorter than you, so like by obvious, like it's so obvious they're meant to just be wrecked,
They're
right?
cannon fodder,
They're
yeah.
just these short little dudes. Then you've got the big tall elites, and you shoot them, and they have a flashy shield. You're like, oh, he's a bigger deal. I need to hit him. And if you've been paying attention to the way your shield works, you're gonna realize, wait, that probably works the same way mine does. And
So that's somebody comparable
there's
to me
something,
when I do it.
and it literally, there's like this hierarchy of like difficulty of AI. It's the grunts, the jackals, and then the elites, right? Grunts, they're just midgets,
Or
and then
brutes.
then you've got jackals later on. You've got jackals, and they're a little taller than grunts, and they've got the shield. And you've got elites who are taller. There's literally like a height in the hierarchy, and then they throw in brutes. They're a little shorter than elites, but they're like these big beefy things. So you realize they're kind of on the same level, but they're different.
And then
Except
you see-
Halo 2 brutes suck, by the way.
Yeah, they do. Then they throw their gun on their back, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
it's coming.
I guess going off of that simplicity of the AI and everything, we were talking earlier about, well, I guess I mentioned that, messing with your friends is really fun. Just sticking them in the back of the head and being like, oh, dude, somebody threw a plasma grenade at you. And they're like, it was you. And you're like, what? No. But,
Do you remember? I need some ammo. Turn around.
yeah. Oh, yeah, you're like, hey, I'm out of
That
ammo.
weapon's
Just,
out. Hey, I got you, G.
yeah. That's a very fun aspect of the game. Also, yeah, just like taking turns doing suicide runs while you're playing on Legendary.
Go,
You're like,
you
okay.
stick 'em. Go, 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 go.
You're like, oh, well, we can't both die because then we have to reset to the checkpoint. So, all right, let's take turns running out and like killing ourselves so that we can kill one grunt and hopefully maybe take out the elite while we're out there. Yeah, I really like that. But yeah, there we go.
And just one other thing I wanted to add to this, even that we haven't talked about, is the fact that you can play Halo on easy, and it's just like you plow through the game and you feel like a total boss. And then you play on Legendary, and it's a whole different game. Like the AI are smarter. They just pelt you with grenades. Like you were saying, you got to run in there in turns basically to try to dent in their forces. And then you add skulls on top of that, like the modifying the game to make it even more difficult. And you
Yeah.
can play Halo where you can like speed run the game and like, I mean, obviously I'm not a professional speedrunner, but if you sit down for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, you can like happily play the game all the way through. But then you throw on Legendary and Skulls, and you're talking about like a week commitment of playing the game.
I mean, Scott and I tried to finish one level in the first game in the official Bungie par time, which was like 20 minutes, right? Or 15.
Are you talking about when we did Assault on the
We did
Control
Assault on
Room?
the control room.
Oh,
That was
it's
literally
15 minutes.
so hard. Like, you could
Yeah.
not stand still
We'll
the entire
screw that
mission.
level, yeah.
I did that with Mark,
Oh, really?
and we missed it by like 15 seconds.
Oof.
Oh,
That sucks.
big oof on that. F in the chat.
Yeah, no kidding. I kind of agree with you about the skull. The skulls are a modifier that makes a difference, but like in terms of like difficulties, like literally every single video game has that, where it's easy, normal, which is still easy, third difficulty, which is like, okay, this is how the game's meant to be played, and then legendary, which just like stabs you in the
I
face.
would argue that a lot of games that have these days have it because Halo did it. Like,
Yeah.
games back then didn't really have that. That was something that I think was pretty new
Well,
with Halo.
Doom did.
Doom
had
2016 had
No,
it.
in
No,
the 90s.
But like
in the
in
ni-
the 90s Doom, yes, there was the difficulties
Well,
and
that's-
stuff, but they just gave the enemies a little more health and they limited your ammo, and that's it. That's all that it did back then.
No.
Yes.
No, no. Have you ever played the original Doom?
I have played the original. I played
All
it
the
in Doom 2016.
Okay, all the Doom, all the ammo drops and health and everything are all in the same place. They just boost the damage, and
Well, I know they just hurt you more and they're harder and you have less
The
ammo.
difference between those two, because we're not here to argue about Doom, is in Halo, the AI also scales.
yeah.
It was the first time the AI scaled with difficulty of the game.
Okay, that's fair.
That I know. I don't think Half-Life did it. It might have, but I don't feel like it did.
I don't know.
I don't know enough about Half-Life, but
So anyways, let's get into why we're worried about Halo Infinite specifically, but I feel like this is going to be in general.
we're gonna talk about.
We're going to
4 and
touch on a
5.
lot of other things Bungie, or 343 has done with Halo that leads to the worry that we have.
Yeah. So many thoughts. Like, let me have a moment of silence to just collect them. Halo 4 was okay. It did a lot of characterization for Master Chief and Cortana that Geez, we haven't even talked about Cortana yet. Well, I mean, people were asking for it, but I think it was kind of a case of people asking for something that they didn't really actually want, because it kind of took the identity out of it a little bit. Having Master Chief, I don't want to say having him care, because like he always did, but like Master Chief was always all about the mission and just being a beacon for humanity, because he was aware of that. Like, oh, I'm humanity's last hope, so I just kind of got to go out and do some stuff.
Yep.
And then Halo 4 was like, had this really personal relationship with Cortana that wasn't necessarily there before. Like, they had some banter and he goes to save her, but again, he's not going to save her just because he promised he did, although he did, but you know, it's because she has the index. It's so that she can light up Halo again.
Yeah, no, there was the mission was always first.
Yeah, it was mission first, and then we're just along for the ride.
In defense of Halo 4, I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I think the direction they were starting to move in there was not necessarily a bad thing. It was different. I wouldn't say it was bad. The silent protagonist has been done to death by 2012 when that game was coming out.
That's fair.
That honestly, I would prefer to have, like, silent protagonists aren't interesting anymore, except for the Doomslayer, because they personify him through the things he does in such an extreme way that you just understand.
Yep.
Well, okay, but Halo did the exact same thing. You know, in Halo 2, when he freaking takes the bomb off the station onto the ship, you know, he's like, what if you miss? I won't. Like,
But
that's
again,
so savage.
That was 2003.
Well, yeah.
It was still interesting. Like, I think the silent protagonist became so much more mainstream in video games that it's like, I just need to say the one thing, and we'll get to Halo 5, but the one thing that gets my goat about Halo 5 is I feel like the original plan that they had for Halo 4, they kind of abandoned at some point between the development process. And the one thing that I wish had been followed up on, do you remember the very first cutscene of Halo 4? Is someone is interrogating Halsey about the Spartan 2s.
Sure.
And then the last thing that the dude said, like the shadow person says, is he's like, do you believe that the Master Chief's success was because he lacked the fundamentals of being a human being?
Well,
and he lacked humanity. And she says, what are you getting at? And then it cuts, and then you play the game, and then you literally, like, that's such an interesting idea.
You don't remember that whole cutscene. It does not cut there.
Yeah, it does.
No, it doesn't. She's like, my Spartans saved humanity, and don't underestimate them. And you can't. She says something about replacing him, like they're trying to recreate Master Chief. Like, there's a lot of stuff in there that you're forgetting. It does not cut there.
Well, I mean,
I promise.
But the point is that's a topic and a theme that they brought up in the game that was never followed.
Yes, I get that.
That's what he's trying to do.
Okay, I get what you're playing out with that. That's true. It was an interesting thing, this idea that they're trying to recreate the Master Chief and figure out what made him what he was. And I don't know, maybe that's what they were thinking about going for in Halo 5 with Locke, but like somewhere along the line they changed their minds.
What's important to note is between Halo 4 and Halo 5's development, the team that worked on, like, the team that had originally worked on multiplayer before they outsourced it was still the same team that worked on multiplayer in Halo 5. The team that worked on the campaign in Halo 4 got completely replaced, and a new team responsible for the campaign made the Halo 5 campaign. I genuinely believe there was just abandonment of whatever the original plan was.
That they left in Halo 4 to push towards the future were just dropped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Play Halo 4 again sometime. It's not great. Because here's my biggest gripe with why I'm worried about Halo Infinite, and why I have kind of been worried about the Halo franchise after Halo 5 came out, I love Halo 5's multiplayer, but it took me 3 years to get to the point where I even played Halo 5 again after the first day it came out.
Yep.
But I am so upset that they didn't leave Master Chief frozen in space. Like, it was so obvious. You look at what Bungie did, right? They made Halo 3. They finished that just epic, climactic story. They left him in space. They made Halo 3 ODST, and then they made Halo Reach. How many of those games is Master Chief in?
Neither.
0.
Except as an Easter egg in Reach.
That doesn't count.
That doesn't count, yeah.
And to me, the reason I'm worried is because they're talking about how Halo Infinite's going to be this, like, game that we're planning to support for 10 years. Like, they're trying to be Destiny, but, like, Halo, and, like, I don't know what's going on with all that. That to me, there's not even been enough said to speculate, but like that worries me because I genuinely feel like the Halo universe has so much potential and is so cool and interesting, and they're just so stuck on the Master Chief.
No, like with the books even. Like the books go all over the place. Like you've got I can't even name them all. There's books and books about other people in the Halo universe, right? That don't even talk about Master Chief. Because guess what? He doesn't matter like in all this other stuff that's going on. You know, you have like June from Reach. He goes into what? Glasslands is a book that follows up on him.
Maybe, I don't know.
It's been a while, and I've only read a couple of them. But the point is, there's just so much more to this universe that can be talked about before Master Chief was a thing, even, and there's just even more to talk about with after, like the events of Halo 3. After Chief is gone, what are we trying to do as humanity to like keep fighting the Covenant and blah 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 blah.
I disagree.
You don't think that there's a lot to talk about there?
Well, I think there's plenty to talk about, but Halo 3 left on a note where there was no more antagonist for humanity. Like, the Covenant was gone, the Flood is gone. We now have allies in the stars, not enemies. But even then, the Sangheili just kind of dip. I mean, the elites are like, alright, well, this was cool. Sorry we killed all your friends. Peace. And, like, it leaves humanity in a place to rebuild. And I like more, I think, thinking just that they did eventually rebuild and go back out to the stars. And then just remember that Master Chief and all the other people that died in the war were the ones that gave them that chance, because that's what he always was supposed to be.
Why didn't they do that? Why didn't they leave him as
Well,
that
that's a
savior?
fetching great question,
That's
Jared.
what we're saying sucks.
I'm saying that they could. Yeah, I know. It sounds like
That's
you're
what
almost supporting going back to.
Here's what I think could have been done and should still be done to some extent, especially because Showtime's making the show that's about Master Chief. Like, I don't care. Please just kill that old fart. He's almost 60 years old in the Halo universe by now. Like, he needs to die. But I think, like, the Human Covenant War in the Halo universe takes like 30 years, right? And the Halo games are the last, like, year
Not even.
of that 30 years.
3 months.
Is it 3 months?
Halo Reach, or I guess Reach is in August, and then Halo 3 starts in December of the same year.
No, Halo 3 is 2553.
Yeah, it is later. So I think it's a year later.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I think there's a
it's
year.
within a year. I don't know exactly, but it's basically a year, give or take. And there's 29 more years of stuff that happened that could be explored. And I'm not even saying like you don't even have to have the Master Chief or a Spartan in it. There's so many storytelling opportunities. And I think ODST did a really good job of showing what could have been done. And I would have loved what ODST was. And then you have like Halo Reach also. Halo Reach was fantastic because that still technically counts as within the last year because that happens like right before Halo 1 happened.
Yeah.
But like there's just so much in there that I would love to be explored more. It's kind of like how with Star Wars when they made Rogue One, right? Like they were like there's this whole civil war that was happening between the Rebels and the Empire. Let's go explore it a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
like,
it was awesome.
And like one thing with that, like, you know, there's Halo Wars, which is like earlier on, and it talks about like stuff that happened on, what is it, Onyx or whatever? Is that the planet it's on? I forget.
No, that's
Harvest.
a different book.
Harvest, right?
No. Halo Wars takes place on a bunch of different planets.
But isn't it like the cult, like the?
It's some planet.
Anyway,
it doesn't matter.
The point is,
Called
it's
Arcadia,
taken.
but
That's
they
what it
leave
was.
that after 3 levels of the game.
Anyways, the whole point is, I think it was really cool what they did there. Like, obviously the gameplay's a lot different than any Halo game, but the point is they were exploring a different part of, like you were talking about, part of the different Covenant Wars. And I think it'd be really cool if we could kind of hop into that earlier stuff as a, you know, first-person protagonist dealing with the Covenant in a way that, you know, before,
ODST did it.
just like ODST did in a way, but
It doesn't even
But
have to be
different,
first
you know?
person. Halo Wars works. Do a third-person cover-based shooter where you play as an ODST or a Marine.
I mean that would be crazy. You're
something.
right.
It would
You
work.
could do that.
Just make Halo into Dark Souls because everyone will kill you in one shot.
I was thinking more like Gears of War
I was thinking
Yeah.
more like Gears of War too.
No, I hear ya.
kind of idea, but yeah.
The hug and cover kind of deal.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. But I guess all this bodes into why we're worrying about Halo Infinite, because Halo 5, which we've kind of touched on, was like such a massive misstep in almost every way, except I guess the gameplay arguably is good.
Sure.
In multiplayer.
In multiplayer, yes, in multiplayer it's fun.
And the sprint,
Yeah.
like Spartan Slam or whatever.
But
That's cool.
like everything that they introduced in Halo 4 got worse in Halo 5. Like all the Prometheans were just awful to fight in Halo 5.
have been awful from the beginning.
Well, okay, and like the Prometheans, whatever you want. Like the Knights were awful to fight, and a lot of stuff was awful to fight. But the Knights got
Going back to
so much worse. Yeah, and I don't know. It just and the story was horrible, and it ended up with just this Cortana being the antagonist, which felt so out of nowhere, and was like, why is Master Chief going AWOL to chase after this piece of hardware he shouldn't give a shiz about? Like,
we
he's
need
a
to mention-
soldier, and just
we need to mention the marketing for Halo 5 painted the picture of something so much more interesting than what we got.
Yeah, no, it was like we dabbled with the Prometheans, and now there's like this bigger thing happening with them, and then it's like, oh, that bigger thing is just Cortana, you know. So, I don't know what you're talking about. Anyways, so I guess we've talked a little bit about Halo 5, and honestly, we could probably ramble and complain about it for like an hour and a half, and it wouldn't be anything.
I could
new.
go longer.
Oh, you think?
I could rant about Halo 5
But anyway,
for a full 2 hours.
the point is that we wanted to talk about with going forward to Halo Infinite is that, yeah, like Tanner just mentioned, that misstep in the story, and like it could have gone somewhere different. And what Halo Infinite looks like is trying to take it in that different direction, which to us is almost like we're getting PTSD over Halo 4. Like, oh, it looks really cool. It looks like it's going in a different direction. It looks like they're introducing new like ways to play the game and different interesting story elements. And I guess what my main concern is, my main worry with Halo Infinite, is that it's just going to be an even bigger step away from the Halo we grew up with, the Halo we love, the basics that like were upheld, that still hold up in the later games, that have just been kind of crumbling, is just going to disappear. That's my biggest fear, at least, is that I'm going to play that game and I'm like, I don't really feel like Master Chief anymore, and I don't really feel like he's the character I played as in Halo 1. And it's okay, character progression's good, but I feel like he's progressing I'm worried he might progress in a direction I don't like, I guess, you know?
I think it's really important to keep in mind character progression in a direction you don't like is not necessarily a bad thing. That does not equal bad story.
You're right. I will give you that.
Well, okay. And
Not
this
necessarily.
in the original trilogy, like Master Chief was a character, sure, but again, he wasn't supposed to really be a character. He's you, and he's the savior of humanity, and he's a symbol of hope. And oh, I know her.
Are you guys doing a podcast?
Yeah, we're recording
Yeah.
right now.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine.
You're good.
I'm not
Go, keep going.
Well, I lost my train of thought. Well, and then in the new Bungie games, they're like, oh, now Master Chief's a character now with character progression, which is like, he wasn't that before, and that's kind of the appeal of him, is that he doesn't change, he doesn't progress, he's just always been what he is, which is hope for humanity.
Yeah.
And with Halo Infinite, I mean, like you said, I think they've shown a sort of inkling of wanting to go back to, well, not even an inkling of it. Like, they've made it very clear they want to go back to the basics. Like, the gameplay that they showed at the pseudo E3 that we got this year was just the first level, or the second level of the first Halo game, but prettier. Like, that's the aesthetic they were going for anyways.
Yeah.
And a lot of the gameplay looks super similar too. You know, you got your assault rifle, you got your warthog, and I mean, I guess they showed a couple new weapons. One of them was basically just the shotgun from Halo 3 that you handheld from the brutes.
Yeah, whatever it's
Yeah, and like I like the back to the basics approach. Yeah, Mauler. You're right. You're right.
Yeah,
It was the
like,
Mauler.
right there.
Yeah, I like the back to the basics approach that they're taking because, like, if we haven't made it clear so far, if you're still with us, we obviously liked the first 3 Halo games a lot more than we liked 4 or 5.
And I would argue that 95% of Halo players would agree with us.
Yeah, I would agree.
And if they don't, they're children who haven't played the old games.
If
Yeah.
If they don't agree, they're probably sick.
But like, I don't know. I'm excited to get another Halo, and it looks pretty, and it looks like it'll be fun and more of the same. But I think I'm kind of still with Scott. After Halo 5, I'm just burnt out. I wish that they just left him in cryo somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, let the poor man rest.
I will say my biggest fear as well is the direction they're going to move it in. And they could move it in a very good direction.
They could.
It's just, to me, the biggest unknown. The reason I'm not I'm not so worried it's guaranteed going to go in a bad direction is like Halo 5's multiplayer also sucked when that game came out. But they updated that multiplayer for like 3 years, and it got a lot better because they listened to the community and the feedback. So that gives me hope. And I'm just worried about the direction it's going to go in, though. Like, yeah, the gameplay looks fun, but do I really want to play that game for 10 years?
Yeah, that's
Granted, I've been playing Halo Combat Evolved for 10 years, but, like, I don't know, right?
Well,
and
there's a nostalgia factor that plays into that.
the things I will say, out of that gameplay, I have to say some things in its defense first before the things that I was concerned about. First of all, everybody who was complaining about the graphics just across the board, you realize this is a game that originally was being designed for the Xbox One, and because of how much they had to scrap whatever plan they had after Halo 5, which thank God they did that, like, this is a game that started brand new from the ground up, but they also had to somehow relate it to what's existed before. So yeah, first of all, like, yeah, the graphics, who cares, right?
It's gonna look better
it's
on your
2020, man. If you're worried about graphics at this point, like, really, how much better have graphics gotten?
If it's fun, it's fun. I
If
don't
it's
give a
fun, it's
crap.
fun. I play Combat Evolved in the original graphics on Master Chief Collection.
Yeah.
Like,
Fetch those remastered graphics.
dude, that's a whole other conversation. But number two, everyone who was like, oh, well, you can see textures popping in and look at that and blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay, so yeah, because it means that it actually is running on the hardware that they're saying it's running on. Okay, we don't need another Spider-Man Puddlegate incident. Like, everyone complained super hard about that, and now all of a sudden, when we get the exact opposite, what I feel like was a true representation, then whatever. Craig the Brute, there's nothing to defend him. Just embrace the meme.
Yeah, I mean, look,
We all
There's
love Craig.
nothing to defend that. That was just... That's
just a monkey.
They deserve all the flack they've
just a
gotten for that.
monkey.
Yeah, that's it. But
He looks better now. They've released other stuff.
So, yeah.
he
So-
looks good.
great. Like, I don't care about the graphics, right? I don't care about any of that. Craig the Brute, baby. I think what worries me the most. This is what worries me the most from that gameplay trailer, and then is just because of what Halo 5 did and Halo 4 as well. The sandbox is getting too convoluted. In Halo 3, you had like basically one gun that filled every role,
Yep.
essentially.
sure.
Every gun had a role that it played.
And there were a couple crossovers.
And same in Halo Reach, right?
just a few.
There are a few
Like the
crossovers, but they
carbine and the battle
perform
rifle, they perform
differently enough that they have their own place.
It's true. I agree.
And then in Halo Reach, like, I hate the fact that in Halo 4 and Halo 5, the DMR and the battle rifle exist in the same game. Because
Yeah.
they fill the exact same role. And in Halo 5, and granted, playing Halo 5 now with all the weapons they've added, like, it reached a point where they were less concerned about maintaining a sandbox. Like, let's just have some fun. Because there are some ridiculously
And
broken
now-
guns in that game.
And now
Yeah.
Fiesta's freaking hilarious.
It's a
to play.
nightmare and a dream at the same time.
Yeah.
But I'm worried because, like, that heavy rifle thing that he pulls out in the gameplay trailer,
Yeah.
why?
Yeah.
It's just a DMR. You can hold the button down to shoot. Like,
Yeah.
why do we need that gun?
Mhm.
And, like, why do we need that gun when the assault rifle exists, when the battle rifle exists? I mean, they might not. I don't know. But, like, why? Why do we need that? And that, to me, is the biggest example of what I'm the most concerned about. Are we going to have more unnecessary additions to the sandbox? Things filling the same role?
Yeah. Well, if you want to talk about unnecessary, the fact that it's going open world, I don't know how they're going to do level design off of that, but like,
About that too.
yeah, there are so many open world first person shooter games out there where every single mission feels exactly the same and unnecessary, and Halo does not need that. Like, I don't need to be going on, oh, go raid the Awoken and get your tiered loot off of it, and you know, it's just,
Yeah.
I don't need that.
And-
No.
Halo definitely from the beginning has had large open areas.
Yeah.
but not an open world.
Yeah.
So here's a hot take for everyone in the game developing industry who I know was listening to this. I'm talking to you, 343, and especially Ubisoft.
Oh yeah.
Open world games are not the best kind of game.
Yeah, they're not the holy grail.
They are not the holy grail. They are really fun and really cool when done right. But Doom Eternal came out this year, and
It's not open world.
nothing else to say about that. Not open world, fantastic game.
Just got nominated for Game of the Year
Every
today.
game Naughty Dog makes.
Yep.
I mean, granted, they were doing open world with the Jack and Daxter games like before anyone else was, but
Sure.
they make
way.
good linear games.
But they're not. Well, I mean, yeah, they did, I guess.
And I guess something else that, kind of going along with that they might also need to hear, open world also isn't the standard. Like, a lot of games coming out these days, people want to make them open
It
world.
doesn't have to
It
be the
doesn't have to
standard.
be.
Okay,
That's
yeah.
what I'm saying. Is open world is awesome, and we love it, and we love to see the games that are coming out that are open world. But if you're just like, it totally depends on what direction you want to go. What kind of story do you want to tell? And yeah, Halo doesn't necessarily need to be open world to feel like it's going for it further, if that makes sense. So
I agree.
Cool. Any closing thoughts on anything regarding Halo? So I think cautiously optimistic is the best thing to say about how
Yeah.
we feel about
Yeah,
Halo
excited,
Infinite.
I
but
think
worried.
it'll be fun. I'll probably have fun playing it. It probably still won't justify its own existence in my mind, though, because I still kind of really swear by the idea that Master Chief should still be drifting through space until humanity needs him again, and the Halo games have not yet proven to me that humanity needs the Master Chief. They need a creative director.
Ouch! Oh man.
Woo! All right, we're gonna call it there. If you listen to this entire thing, thank you so much. We don't want to be those guys, but hey, if you like what you've heard so far, go ahead, subscribe. Doesn't really, I mean, we're nowhere close to making money off of this, but that's one step closer, right?
I mean, we're having fun doing this, and if we build up audiences, there's just more we can do, and more we can do for you guys
Just-
to enjoy it.
Comment
No.
or DM us and tell us at what point you got bored.
Yes, please comment and let us know what you think. That's what we love the most. So anyways, thank you for listening, everyone. Should we outro them with more Halo, or should we just cut it?
Nah, just cut it.
Bye.